Catalina Island, an affordable honeymoon and a hidden gem. We'll be talking about our experience on our honeymoon and why you definitely should go this year. We also have a special tip towards the end of the video that you'll definitely want to see.
So we chose Catalina Island because traveling internationally was too risky during the pandemic. We actually found it on a whim. I had no idea that it was actually considered part of the US.
Seriously.
When you just shelled out thousands of dollars for your wedding, your budget might be a little bit smaller for your honeymoon. So we were really impressed with Catalina Island.
It's an absolutely beautiful place. There are a few cities on the island, but the main city is Avalon, which has about a radius of about a mile. And within that mile, there are a lot of fun things to do. So we'll start with our favorites. We'll start with number 5. There are a lot of bars and places to go shopping if you're into all of that. We went to a bar, stayed there about, an hour and a half or so. We ended up getting some drinks, and we left because we're awkward. But it's good to know that's always an option, yeah.
Yeah, that drink was really good, but the atmosphere is, I was like, we don't fit in here. We're not bar people, so we just drank and dipped.
Yeah.
Number 4 was mini golf. You want to talk about a really beautiful mini golf course? Catalina Island has got one.
Seriously.
The course for people who enjoy mini golf is, I would say, about medium to hard on most of the holes. We were actually about to get to hole 9, and I thought I was hallucinating, but there was a deer laying on the middle of the course.
It's looking at us.
Yeah, and I was like, is that real? Is that part of the course? So I was like, dang, that's really realistic. And we went to tell the staff, and she kind of looked at us like, oh yeah, like he's basically here every day. Like that's just normal. And we're like, oh.
Yeah, it's funny. Later on the trip, that deer actually was prancing through the street right by number 3, which is the arcade. And let me tell you, arcades are fun and they're everywhere, but there's just something about it being on the island. They have all kinds of games, like your typical racing games and skee ball and whatnot. But I know our favorite personally was the Connect 4, where you have to shoot basketball in order to use your pieces. It just added a really fun twist and made for a really good time.
And I know it's controversial because a lot of people don't like this in the arcade, but I really like the style that has the game cards, so you don't have to carry a bunch of tokens.
And keep in mind, we know that these 3 activities you can do anywhere, but these next 2 truly made Avalon and Catalina Island feel special.
Yeah, number 2. So there was 2 different types of tours that you could go on. One was called the Eco Ridge Tour, and the other was the Bison Expedition Tour. We happened to go on both of them, and I definitely think we liked the Eco Ridge Tour better. So when you look at the map, when you're purchasing your tickets, it shows you the route that each tour will go on. And the Eco Ridge Tour was a much more like you're driving through the mountains, like you feel like you're part of the clouds, looking out over the whole entire island and seeing the ocean. And our tour guide on that one was really good. She was awesome. Like so knowledgeable. She'd been doing it for over 10 years, gave so much information, tips, and history about the island. Really awesome. And then the Bison Expedition, that one was also cool. They do let you know that there is no guarantee that you'll ever actually see a bison. As a matter of fact, I think we actually saw the bison on the Eco Ridge Tour and not the Bison Tour. So that was kind of funny.
If you don't know which tour to go for, the Eco Ridge Tour is definitely more view-based of the island. And the Bison Expedition, they have to take you to a more remote part of the island since the bison they're not congregated around where the majority of the people are living. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, if you're on a budget, you can definitely choose one or the other. And I would definitely recommend the Eco Ridge Tour one. The views are unbeatable.
And speaking of the unbeatable views, this leads us to our favorite thing to do on the island, which is renting a golf cart and exploring the island on a golf cart. You get to essentially get all the benefits of the Eco Ridge Tour, and you get to control your experience. You can hang out at a view for as long as you want.
The views that you get when you finally climb up to the highest viewpoint, it feels unreal that we were able to do that on our own in a golf cart.
Yeah. The really cool thing is they give you a map with over 12 different stops on the map. And all of these stops, some are views or some are kind of like historical sites on the island. And, they give you little bits and tips about the history of Avalon. and it was very, very cool. You definitely have to do it if you're going to Catalina Island.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty affordable too. And they have the 4-person golf carts and also the 6-person golf carts. So if you're traveling in a group, it's definitely something you guys can all do together as well. We stayed at the Hotel Atwater. And on average, they're about less than $200 a night, depending on what style room you're staying in. We were very impressed with the lobby. It was very upscale. It had different board games that you could use, and also a cafe that was kind of in their lobby that I think we got like a $20 credit for that you could use for their snacks, and they had sandwiches and drinks. So that was a really, really cool feature as well.
And on top of that, with Avalon being a mile wide, the hotel is in a really prime location. It's very close and walkable to pretty much every single restaurant and cafe nearby. So of course they hold your luggage and you can still explore the island and not feel bogged down by having to keep track of where your stuff is.
Yeah, that was super helpful, especially when we still wanted to go to one of the restaurants. And so that brings us to our top 5 restaurants on the island. And number 5 is the Descanso Beach Club, which is adults only and right on the beach. We ended up trying, they have a signature drink on the island that's called the buffalo milk, which does not have any buffalo in it. Essentially, it's like a spiked milkshake.
It was very, very sweet.
Yeah, it was really, really sweet. So if you don't like sweet drinks, you will not like it.
And speaking of restaurants worth a try, this leads us to number 4, which is Catalina Coffee and Cookie Company. So there are about 2 breakfast restaurants on the island, but this was definitely our favorite, and they had the best cinnamon roll you could imagine.
That is not an understatement. Cinnabon has nothing on them. I would pay a lot of money to have those shipped to North Carolina, to be completely honest. Number 3, the Blue Water Avalon. Now this restaurant was right on the pier. So the atmosphere and ambiance of the restaurant, where you're eating fresh seafood while looking out into the ocean and hearing the birds and seeing everybody walking along the pier, is top tier, and the food was absolutely delicious.
If you're a seafood lover, you are going to absolutely love it here. And this leads us to restaurant number 2. It's called NDMK. And oh man, we had blackened salmon for the first time. We recommend everyone to travel because you encounter different cuisines or different cooking techniques, or some things you want to just bring back to your personal life back home, and it makes you more diversified.
Yeah, I would say that you have mastered how to make a blackened salmon, so I feel very lucky that we get to still have that from home now.
I will take it.
I really liked the atmosphere too at the NDMK. It was kind of like you were stepping into a fisherman's hangout. They had like a slideshow playing of, I'm assuming, fish that they actually prepared, and they were huge. I did not realize how big tuna and other fish could get, which leads us to our number 1, which was the Lobster Trap. We went here, I think it was 2 or 3 times because it was just so good. We actually had the chance to try swordfish for the first time. And you had different options of how it could be prepared.
Yeah, my favorite part about the Lobster Trap was the variety of fish, but also the variety of ways you could have that fish cooked and prepared with the sauce choices and whatnot. It just made it seem like you could go there and get 16 different choices out of 4. And now that you made it this far into the video, it's time for our special tip. With Catalina Island being, well, an island,
you have a few modes of transportation on how to get to the island. The first is swimming.
Don't recommend that one.
Not at all.
No.
And the second is the Catalina Express, which is the ferry boat to the ferry ports that you can leave out of. It's about maybe an hour.
Maybe an hour, yeah.
You very much need to buy your tickets in advance. If you don't, you will have very slim pickings as to what time you can take the ferry. We found out, so on our last day that we were leaving, we had booked the very last Catalina Express of the day, which I think was like 3:30, and we found out that you can actually exchange your tickets with no charge to an earlier time only. You cannot change it to a later time. But so that allowed us to change our tickets from, I think it was like 3 o'clock to like 1 o'clock.
Yeah, because we ended up taking advantage of that, and it was really nice. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Please make sure to hit the thumbs up button and click subscribe to see more content. We have a lot more cool things coming in the future. And until then, bye.